All right, and the beat goes on once again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. As always, my name is JV Wins. I'm joined by the boy Dogon SS on this March the 28th, 2023. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to everybody for supporting our little corner here on the YouTube universe. Before we get things kicked off, I would like to begin by saying that if you have not done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Please, show us some support as we try to kick back to the community by making some good, engaging content that people can rally behind. We certainly appreciate you supporting logical content. We do this each and every week, multiple videos a week, multiple uploads, trying to keep the activity going. So we certainly appreciate your support. As you can see on our ticker going across the bottom of the screen, we have a current goal of 1,000 subscribers. And thus far, we have been doing this straight off the muscle of our consistency and just our commentary. There's no sponsorship, there's no financial backing. We just do this because we like talking about these various topics. So if you have not done so, go ahead and join the tribe, man. Hit that subscribe button so that you can be a part of the community and also get notifications or just be made aware whenever new content is published to the channel, because we certainly appreciate that. With that out of the way, we'll go ahead and get started. First thing that we're going to talk about this evening is the gift that keeps on giving. So Jada Pinkett and Will Smith's marriage, relationship, family, whatever you want to call it, is frequently discussed across the podcast world, the YouTube world. It's a topic of discussion quite often. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Dare I say, Will and Jada are also friends of the channel, along with everyone else who has crossed that threshold into being friends of the channel. And that relationship, that dynamic, and the whole everything, we don't need to go down, memory lane, rehashing everything that's happened thus far. The whole red table talk, the entanglement thing, you know, Will going on her show to talk about the fact to get asked questions by her in terms of how he felt about the fact that she was sleeping with their son's friend, who was an R&B star, the Oscar slap. Y'all already know everything that's transpired with respect to their personal dynamic. But it was brought up during a recent episode of the King Rich's podcast that goes down out in the UK. And fellow content creator Melanie King was a guest on the King Rich's podcast. And she was asked about it. And so they went on talking about it. She gave her thoughts about how she feels about the whole situation. But then she specifically flipped it and posed the question, how would the reaction have been if the shoes were reversed? And Will was the one interviewing Jada, asking her how she felt about him sleeping with their daughter's friend. And so I thought that this was an interesting angle with which to kind of look at this particular story. So I'll go ahead and play this. Um, Again, this is Melanie King going into what if the shoes were reversed? How would we be reacting if this was Will who was doing this and not Jada? And how much different it would have been. So I thought that this was pretty interesting. I love talking about male female double standards. And so she's implying that there is a double standard here and that things would have been drastically different in terms of the public perception had it been Will who was doing this and not Jada. So we'll go ahead and play this about 2 minutes and then we'll talk about what she had to say afterwards.
You turn it up some.
And he's the bottom and she's like a superstar, right?
She wouldn't have done this.
No, it doesn't matter. We're giving the exact same example,
Okay.
regardless of what you think.
Okay.
Let's take it as raw, like equal. Let's give it equal,
Yeah.
right? You interview, he interviews his wife. Oh, how did you feel about my entanglement with our daughter Willow's friend, best friend? And I'm giving details how I piped her down and how I all of this. Every woman, and then I'm gonna write a tell-all about you and
Melanie, pull the
Aaliyah,
mic
who I
down.
was in love with back in the day.
Melanie, pull your mic
Oh,
down.
sorry. And Aaliyah, who I was in love with back in the day, because that's what I compare her with Tupac. So Aaliyah,
Yeah.
right? In the US, I don't know in the UK if she was as big as she
Yeah,
was
she's
in the
huge.
okay.
Yeah, she's huge.
So
Yeah.
Aaliyah, because she died like Tupac.
R.I.P.
So now he's gonna write a memoir and speak his truth, live his truth, and
Truth. Live your
writing
truth.
down uh, the daughter's friend. How would y'all feel?
He'd be cancelled immediately. Like he wouldn't even get a say. Like he wouldn't even be able to write the tell-all. He wouldn't even get to that point. That's the
When they would
reality.
give him a book deal?
Oh, there was no.
Could he
I
even
don't-
have a show?
I don't even
Could
get
he
why.
have Red
I
Table
don't even
Talk?
get why Jada's getting a
It'd be
book.
carnage.
I really don't get why she's. If I'm going to be honest, I don't get why she's getting a
Because
book.
in the
'Cause
West,
it
in
was
the
a slap
US,
in the
we're for the
face.
streets.
It was a slap in the face.
Because women are allowed to do whatever they want.
And I
bro.
feel like
That's
it's
the
also-
society we live in the West, man. That's what it boils down to.
There's no culture
That's
there.
why, let me tell you one thing. The reason that I can even have these conversations and talk about this stuff is because I got women guests. That's why I told them don't bring guys on my show because I can't have these conversations. If we was all a group of men
Oh,
here
it'd go
talking it,
down.
having it,
The
this
flames.
show would get cancelled straight away.
So quickly.
Okay, so there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting indeed. So, um, obviously, a lot of angles with which to tackle this from, but her central point was that in Western cultures, in Westernized society, there is a double standard with respect to how we perceive perpetrators and victims of infidelity, particularly within a marriage context. And had it been Will who was doing the cheating and bringing Jada onto his TV show to ask her about it, um, you know, the show and the other guests who were asked the question, they even acknowledged the show would have been canceled. Will wouldn't even be at the point where he gets to write a book about this thing. And for anyone who is unaware, Jada is going to write a memoir about this, as well as her love for Tupac, which would be, in my opinion, further embarrassment for Will Smith. And, it just doesn't work the other way around. If Will's going to try and capitalize on a situation like this by writing a book, I do believe that he also would get raked through the coals and canceled. So I think that their points warrant merit. But how about you?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. These are the times that we're dealing with. The double standards. But here's my thing with double standards such as that. I love them. I love double standards, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because there's truth in every double standard, and the double standards are there for a reason most times. In this dynamic, when we're dealing with male-female dynamics and the double standards that exist within those realms, uh, men benefit from a lot of things that women don't. We have this thing that we can biologically blame, that we just want to sleep around. We can biologically blame biology for that. And hey, man, we're a guy. We have to spread seed. We're not pregnant for 9 months. So we get that. And so with that double standard comes, well, we're breadwinners. We take care of everything, blase splees. And, men do what men do. And when we get away with that, and it's kind of like any kind of privilege anybody wants to talk about. So it's like it's a privilege. It's male privilege. And then there's female privilege. So they exercise because they're not in positions of dominance. So they have to get it how they live. So just imagine in biology, if there's scraps on the table, biologically, men should win every time. Because if it came down to physicality and straight brute logic, men will win. So women, knowing that biologically, they have to circumvent and find other ways to get to that piece of the whatever has been dropped on the table. So I say all of that to say that women women use their own personal double standards to their advantage because they have to in this society of making people feel guilty about whatever and shaming people into whatever. So they're going to use their double standards, and men use theirs all the time. So they exist for a reason, I feel. Um, and if there is a double standard that is going on, I don't personally get upset about it. I just understand that the person that's trying to, well, you can do this, why can't I? That's a double standard. It's like, if they try to put that energy on me, I quickly go, hey, let's think about this. Let's think about this. And, let's talk it out kind of thing. And most likely, I think after a conversation, people can really realize that, well, you know what? This double standard needs to be here. Whether it's in the favor of the woman or favor of the man. So, in this context, could Will Smith go around having sex with, Jada's whatever, the scenario got flipped, or he's talking, yeah, he'll be a scumbag. So, so he'll still get praised behind his back because he's slaying other women behind his wife's back. So he'll get praised for that. He's not going to be called a whore or anything like that, like a woman would. So the double standards are all over the place, and men benefit from a lot of them just like women do. So, yes, it is a double standard, but 1 times 0 equals 0. So, how about you,
Yeah,
Sal? What do you think?
yeah. I always like to say that there's always two sides to the same coin. Um, yeah, I think that if it was reversed, it would play out differently. But as I've said on this channel before many times, and I'll say it again, when it comes to things like um, infidelities and cheatings and all of that kind of stuff, whenever we're talking about relationships and marriages, it boils down to a matter of who's the perpetrator and who's the victim. So there's a victim element and then there's a perpetrator element. Within the context of these various situations, so long as the woman is perceived to be the victim and not the perp, she can take advantage of all the various dynamics that play into her talk, her, using the situation to her advantage. 9 times out of 10, whenever there's infidelity present within the confines of the relationship, if it's the man doing the cheating, he's going to be perceived as a perp, even if he is actually a victim. And if a woman is cheating within the confines of a relationship, she will be perceived to be a victim because that's just the way these things work. So, like, what I mean by that is, guy's in a marriage and he cheats. It's going to be because he's a dog and he cheats and he's not faithful and he's not disciplined and he doesn't care about the woman, blah, blah, blah. If woman is in a marriage or a relationship and she cheats, it'll be, well, she must be doing it for a reason. There must be a reason why she's doing this. Maybe she's being mistreated, she's being abused. There's a reason for it. There's a validation aspect that kicks in because women would just never actually cheat just because they want to. But that's the inherent double standard in the way that we perceive these various situations. I think what puts people off when it comes to somebody like Jada is the attempt to capitalize on it. That's what I think is off-putting. But as Melanie King said in that clip that we played there, in westernized culture, when it comes to relationships and cheating and all of that kind of stuff, women kind of we've adopted this mentality and we've accepted it, we've normalized it that women are for the streets. And so women being for the streets when it comes to this stuff, you also can't be surprised when, someone in Jada's position is going to attempt to capitalize off of it. And I think that's the part of it that rubs people the wrong way. I
Mm-hmm.
think had there not been an interview, had there not been a whole red table talk thing,
Mm-hmm.
now there's the news of this book. I think these various elements on a grand scale get perceived by people on either side, male or female, as opportunistic. And I think that's what rubs people the wrong way. But otherwise, yeah, there's double standards at work. And I think that the double standards play into who is the victim and who is the perp. And when it comes to relationships, whether the cheating is perpetrated by the woman or not, if a woman's doing the cheating, or if there's even cheating present, no matter who's doing it, she's the victim and he's the perp. If she's the one doing the cheating, she's doing it because she's a victim of his whatever. If he's doing the cheating, it's because he's a perp and he is just doing whatever he does and he's running roughshod on her, taking advantage of her, mistreating her, so on and so forth. You never get the situation flipped in which she's emotionally or physically abusing him or mistreating him, which is the truth in this particular situation, I would say, is that, I think if there was a perpetrator that we would classify in this particular subject, it would be Jada being the perp and Will being the victim. I don't necessarily know that everybody looks at it that way. I think for some people, because we have this ingrained in our minds that women can't be perpetrators of infidelity, there has to be a reasoning behind why Jada is doing what she's doing, thereby justifying her actions and behaviors. And therein lies the double standard for me and a lot of people who do look at this as evidence of inequitability when it comes to how infidelity is perceived. But like you, I accept it as a way of life. I understand it. And I do believe in the notion of two sides of the same coin. As a man, I'll never be able to get into a club for free because I look good. I'll never be able to take advantage of that perk. That's a woman oriented perk. I'll never be able to go places and do things being broke. Women can in many ways. That's a societal perk granted to women based solely off of the sake of their existence as women. So with the good comes the bad. And they get to do these things and benefit, and they also get to sort of have certain dynamics that work to their detriment, just like we do. I said on a previous topic, I'd love to be able to get with any woman that I want and be broke and homeless. Can't do that. It's not the way the world works. I have to be able to build myself up to something if I'm going to operate in that space. So yes, there's double standards all around. The key to them is just having perspective and acknowledging the various ways that you benefit, not just crying about everything that works against you, which is what annoys certain people and why people tend to bring these kinds of things up. So that's pretty much how I saw it. And yeah, I acknowledge the presence of it. I do think it would have played out differently, but this is par for the course at this point.
Yeah, and she no doubt she's coming out looking, like she's being mistreated. That's what the whole red table thing was, to give her side of the story. And she told some truths in there. And she basically was, yeah, telling her truth, right? And
Yeah.
while she was on there explaining how she got trapped by Will and how she really didn't want this like that, of course, now she fantasizes about Tupac and all this other stuff. I saw TK Kirkland. Shout out to TK Kirkland. I think Art of Dialogue was interviewing him about that, and he didn't hold no punches. He came straight at her. He was like, "Man, Tupac wasn't checking for her like that." And of course, yeah, y'all in the same pictures, and yeah, he knows you and all this other stuff. But girl, you weren't on his level. You wasn't gonna get with him. So this, post, uh, his passing and her doing this whole lifelong fantasy thing of Tupac, as if she was the one that would have been next up had he still been alive. It's cap. She wasn't. And so her writing all this stuff about Tupac and, uh, you know, just rubbing it in the face of Will, she's clearly a scorned woman. She clearly didn't want this situation to play out as it did. She did not intend to be with this man. And so, since she didn't intend, yeah, there's tons of resentment. And so, and if you ask a woman, that's been in her shoes, then yeah, she'll go there. Yeah, I mean, Will should step up to the plate more. He should do more. He should do this. And it's like, hey, man, he can't win with this situation. But that's what he gets for being as aggressive as he was with her. And, because the stories are there, about him, busting up in that and happy that she's pregnant. And she's not. And he's like, yeah. Now let's get married. Getting weird with it. And that weirdness never went anywhere. So when she wants something normal, or on a badass scale like Tupac, she's got this weirdo guy in the house. Woo! All this other weird stuff and inspirational quotes from The Alchemist and all this other stuff he's doing. Scientology. This guy was Hollywood weirdoing up. And so she had those tons of stuff. She wanted some stuff. And so she got it in her son's boyfriend. So this situation here, it's a mess. This is a Hollywood mess. Is there double standards at play? Is she always the victim here? Yeah, I think she is. She went along with a lot of this, but I mean, that's why she did it. She wanted to say, hey, I didn't sign up for this shit. So the Alcina stuff, yeah, because I didn't sign up for this. And you can't be, I guess you can't be mad at it when you live a life of being a celebrity and your life is constantly on display. So if people want to write your story, I think she felt like she wanted to tell hers. And when I started hearing her story, it's like, yeah, he was being a weirdo. And only a weirdo would get a visual cue from his wife on one of the biggest stages of trying to be a professional you can, and then go slap somebody. I mean, you got to be a weirdo to do that. Whether, because I don't know what this was about. Whether this was an inside thing or not, I still don't know the story about it. I mean, yes, it could play out however, because he will live in infamy, for better or for worse. But this will always come up, and he will always forever be famous. Looking up pictures for Will and Jada and at that Oscars night, that will forever live. I don't know. Anybody from our cohort or anybody that had a computer or a smartphone, they're going to forever remember that image because of how memorable that night was. So for better or for worse, they immortalized themselves. And was it worth it? No, it wasn't. Not to be infamous. And I forgot who that was. I don't know if that was Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle. He said, I think it was Dave Chappelle. He said, you can be, he said something about being infamous. You can't be uninfamous, basically. You could be not famous no more, but you can't not be infamous, because to be infamous for anything, to get that rubbed away, that will forever live in infamy. So was it worth it? I don't think so. But double standards, bring them on. Hey man, bring them on, man. Hey man, because these same people on this panel here, because they seem to be melanated. They've got tons of double standards when it comes to skin tone and something being racist, or they're not going to call those out because they benefit from so much of them socially. So that's what I'm saying. So it's just like, stop. If you want to call out one double standard, call them all out. But if you call them all out, you'll be giving up some nice little benefits. So stop crabbing about the ones you can't have, and just let people have theirs.
Yeah, and this is a rare instance in which there was a female who was pointing out,
oh yeah,
something that works against women, because usually women will do that. Usually women will universally, usually they will cape together to downplay all the double standards that work to their benefit and only bring to light the double standards that work against them. And uniquely, Melanie King will at times talk about some of the double standards that work to men's detriment. But of course, no one cares about men, so no one ever wants to hear that. But she will, say it from time to time. It's very remarkable how this entire thing is transpired in such a way that these things that Jada has done subsequently after everything went down, if it was a man doing them, would be viewed in poor taste. But I find it very fascinating that if she's coming out like the red table talk thing, she must have done that for a reason. It couldn't have just been because she's a scumbag. There has to be a reason why right? Like there has to be a reason why she's doing this. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your credit, it's like, yeah, she's doing this to try and tell her side of the story, because that's what needs to happen, because as a woman I can't be a scumbag. There has to be my side of the story.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Will Smith, his side of the story is irrelevant if it was flipped. And I think, King is saying, let's pay attention to that. But at the same time, like, this is just kind of the way that the world works. There's an ugly side to it and a good side to all of it. And really, like I said, would I like to be able to benefit from some of the things that women get to benefit from? I don't know, because that would fundamentally change my reality, and I don't know that I want my reality to change. So I just kind of take the good with the bad and roll with the
So,
punches.
so hold on.
But
So let me ask you this. So have you ever benefited from handsome privilege before? I'm sure you have. Isn't it?
indirectly, maybe indirectly, like, I may have benefited from that indirectly, meaning perhaps I was getting some kind of treatment that I wasn't asking for or immediately recognized, but it was taking place nevertheless. I can't say that I've directly benefited from that. Like, I don't know that I've gone anywhere publicly or been able to get into anything for free or discounted or anything of that nature because I was a good looking man. I
You
don't
sure?
think any of that has ever happened.
All right. So for instance, right? What I was about to say. So just a regular scenario. You're in a grocery store, right? And you're in the back of the line. It's a long line, and the cashier, they look at you or whatever, and then they look at you, and I'm looking. I'm like, man, I only got two things, man. You know, and then they look at you like, you know what? This guy's too handsome to wait in the back of this line.
No,
Yeah,
no,
you never got that. This guy's too
no,
handsome for this.
not at all. No,
All
not
right.
at
So
all.
one more. So have you ever been well groomed, well put together, went somewhere, and then people sensed your level of professionalism and gave you, you know, extra courtesy?
Define extra courtesy. Give me an example.
Like, let's say, they're just being very nice. They're really trying to. They're not heavy-handed treating you. They feel like you're a person that that deserves this kind of treatment. You know, because because I'll put it this way: there's times that I dress down, and there's times I dress up. And when I'm dressed down, I'm getting treated heavy. When treated down or dressed down, it's heavy-handed treatment everywhere I go. Now, when I dress up, then it's different. Then it's like, hey, this guy, what are you waiting over there for? Oh, me? Yeah, get over here. It's like, all right, because this guy don't wait for stuff. Look at him. But the guy that come in grungy that is just, and it's like, oh, sir, please get away from me.
I
You've been,
don't. I
you've
don't
been,
know.
you've been
I
handsome
don't.
for
I
so
don't.
long you can't tell. That's
I
that's
don't know. Well, see, and the thing is, I've never put that to the test by doing a control versus variable experiment.
do
Like,
one.
let me go somewhere dressed down, see what happens, and then let me go the same place
That's what I'm
dressed up
saying.
and see if it's any different. Like, I've never conducted that kind of an experiment before.
I
I'm
think that
pretty
would be
consistent in terms of how I present myself
that's what I'm
publicly.
saying.
So all I can say is maybe, but I wouldn't know because
Because you
I've
never
always presented myself publicly the same way. But I don't think so. And even if I have, it hasn't been a direct, tangible benefit in the same way that women get to. And
absolutely.
here's the thing. And here's the thing. I don't want it. I don't want it because I'm good. I'm good where I am, and I'm fine taking the good with the bad and understanding that I get the benefit from certain things, and other things I kind of have to work a little harder for. Like, women often wonder, why are guys so crazy, right? Like, when it comes to breakups, or like, women wonder, and I've lost count of how often I've tried to help women understand this. Like, I've had so many different conversations with females who don't understand why guys get so crazy when it comes to like being attached to them or cuffing them or just being deranged, or if they don't want to talk to them no more, the guy's going weird on them, constantly hitting them up, calling them, doesn't want to stop, just being extra persistent to the point where it's like intrusive because they've clearly told this guy they don't want any parts of it. And so they basically had to learn how to navigate around men in such a way as to not give them too much because they don't want guys to go crazy on them. And they've always wondered, why do guys do that? I don't get it. And they really do think that it's this thing with guys just being crazy across the board. And what I tried to explain to them is, look, we don't live the same reality. Like, men and women live different realities. That guy is acting like that because he knows that if you aren't interested in him, he's going to have to go back to the drawing board. And who knows how long it's going to take before he meets another girl who's interested in him. It could take 6-9 months. It's that it can take a while. Meanwhile, you probably already got dudes in your phone right now who you can be talking to. And even if you didn't, your reality is constructed in such a way that the minute you walk out of the door, no matter where you go, several times a day, there's going to be some kind of interaction where there's a guy who's interested in you. Men don't live that reality. I don't walk out of the door and go to the grocery store and get approached by women. It's not a part of my reality. Not saying that I'm unsuccessful with women, but as a man, it's not my reality. But women are so absorbed in their own world. Like, women, I have found, and I'm not necessarily trying to, I'm not trying to bash women or criticize them. I'm literally just pointing this out as a fact, as a matter of observation.
Mhm.
Women, I found, they are not very perceptive when it comes to understanding that there are other people who don't live the same reality as them. They tend to believe everyone's reality is the same as theirs. So they think that they're getting as much attention. They think that men get as much, and I've literally heard women say this. They think men get as much attention from women that women get from men. No, we don't. We don't live the same realities.
It's
There is
like,
an inherent there is an inherent double standard baked into our very nature. As a guy, I have to go out into as a guy, I have to go out and assert. And as an asserter, I women have the right of refusal, not me. I don't have the power to make them want me. I have to work to earn that. Whereas you just get it because you exist as a female. So a lot of times that's why guys go crazy because guys don't want to have to go back to the drawing board. Dudes don't want to be dolo. So if you don't want them or you ain't interested, they're going to be dolo, and no guy wants to be dolo. And they just never, they don't, it doesn't click for them until you explain it in that way. So like when it comes to the double standards, it is what it is. Like, they exist, but understand that we don't all live the same reality. Jada is able to write her stupid book and get on her stupid show and make her husband look like a buffoon, because when it comes to relationships, women tend to, if the relationship is in a state of relative upheaval, no matter what the circumstances are, benefit from the fact that they will nevertheless be perceived as a victim. Whereas for men, they will almost always be perceived as a perp. And so that's why it is the way it is. So it's like, don't necessarily get bent out of shape about it. But I do think that women owe at least enough honesty to the conversation to have enough perspective to understand this and not literally think that there's truth to the fact that women are always victims and men are always perps. And so that's where I think a person like King will come out and say, y'all bitches on some crazy shit, which she does do that from time to time when she notices that people are being unreasonable when it comes to her critiques. When not her, but when it comes to people's critiques of certain stories like this. But double standards, yeah, I'm all for it too. But I'm all for it because I wouldn't want my reality to change. And whether I get to benefit from certain things, relatively speaking, in the same way that women do, perhaps I wouldn't notice that because I weigh things based upon tangible benefit directly to me. So unless I'm getting money or getting access to something or getting free parking, unless I'm getting some sort of tangible benefit that I can touch, feel, and see, to me it's hearsay, and it's not the same. And I don't know that it's an apples to apples comparison.
it's not. But but the reason why I ask is because I mean they're subtle, but they do exist. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said, your standard of dress, you don't. It's like Doug from Nickelodeon, bro. You open it, it's crispy everything. I've never. By the way, everybody, I've never seen this man dressed down. This is not. Everywhere he goes, it's like, man, we could be going to just pump gas somewhere. This guy's out here looking like he about to walk a runway. So that's why he don't know the difference. He gets it every day. So yeah, man, do a control study, man. Walk out the house looking like me one day, and just because the times I be looking like Ebenezer, and I'm sitting there trying to do my look in the back of the line because it's too long, and they're like, oh, that jackass can wait. that jackass can wait. And I'm like, come on. I only got 2 things. They're like, get this asshole out of here. So yeah, man. But when I'm just saying, I've noticed. So give it a try, man. A little fun little study. But it was one thing you mentioned, and the victim thing. The reason why I think is because women already view relationships. You think men view relationships like prison? Women do. And they feel oppressed at all times. And so they feel as though, as the oppressed beings, if something bad happened, it had to be systematic something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, it's systemic. It's you can't see it, but it's there. It's hidden. Yeah. And it's like, what system? What misogyny, and he's saying
patriarchy.
Patriarchy. And so if you will, if you want to black the white this, he's practicing white supremacy. So he's oppressing me. So they look at it in the same context. So if a guy is manning and something goes wrong in a relationship while he's manning, they're gonna go, yeah, because he's an oppressive jackass. That's why.
Yeah.
What did he do, Jada? Unbelievable. Now it was unbelievable. but still. But yeah, super, super messy situation. Love the content. Gold mine here. Will and Jada, we need something new out here. And because listen, entertainment has jumped off the big screen and it has jumped into everyday life. And so these politicians and entertainers going through shenanigans we cover every week, this is the real juice. This is the real and I love this reality TV. So keep bringing this on because I don't know, it's close enough to real, and I dig it. It's good. It's good art. It's good art.
Yeah, I hear that. Look, man, anything that can help us talk about some interesting topics on the Conscious Approach channel, I'm all for it. So, like I said, it's the gift that keeps on giving. These individuals have joined Kanye and Kyrie and everybody else who we have labeled as friends of the channel, and I am all the more thankful for them. So, messy, it is what it is, but the double standards are what they are. So I just say everybody have perspective, know that you benefit.
Yes.
In certain respects, but also things work against you. And like you say, be on your square and understand things. Like, don't get too high or too low because things work against you, but there are things that are also benefiting you.
Right.
So just have perspective and know that both things are going on at the same time, and just learn how to capitalize as much as possible on the things that you benefit from. And stop being, so worrisome of all the things that don't, because it ain't that serious.
And communicate with the people next to you and close to you who be carrying these things around, double standards, like they're real.
Yeah.
And so you got to communicate the subtle nuances to these people so everybody can just calm down. Yeah. And because as soon as people get that double standard chip on their shoulder, shit just goes haywire. Logic goes out the window. So, the reason why I was, saying what I was saying what you just said is that, communicate this out with your people. Get this fleshed out. If they do feel some type of way about something, talk about it. You'll be amazed what happens when you actually open your mouth and say something instead of
Yeah.
assuming and all that bullshit.
Yeah, I concur, man. That's a very good point. So yeah, thanks, Will and Jada. Keep bringing it on. Jada, when that book comes out, I'm sure we'll talk about certain excerpts on this channel. Can't wait. She'll be the older version of Brittany Renner. Can't wait. Can't
Tupac
wait.
fantasies.
Yeah, facts. Yeah,
It will
I
be
can't. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for how these liberal people are gonna celebrate that book.
oh, man. Will.